welcome to Nurse Studio. Today I've got Gemma Northfield, Senior Charge Nurse, my bestie, mum of two, extremely clever, and an inspiration for me especially on her MDT and communication and relationships, especially professionally, how she communicates and interacts with others. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. No pressure there. You've just hyped me up quite a lot. Thought we was coming here for a chat, and she didn't bring me any wine. It's not going well.
I've got no wine actually, but Heidi, my first guest, she's got a Einkin that is still there. It's called
No, I'm okay, thanks.
No use, zero alcohol beer.
We'll have it for after.
It makes me really happy actually. That one does. So I wanted to know. The reason why I brought you here is because you're very good at communicating, and she's very shy. So I had to pay her good money for this.
She's paid me no money. There is no money here. I see no money.
Oh, I need to be careful with my laugh because I laugh so loud. So I wanted to ask you if you could do a little introduction, who you are and how did you become a nurse. This is our first registered nurse in the podcast. Woohoo! So yeah, because I think you started as a HCA, isn't it?
I did, yeah. So I started as an HCA in 2004. So that's also when I started my nurse training. But we need the money, because there's not really much money being a student, as you know. So I started on the care of the elderly ward in one of the local hospitals to where we work. And yeah, it was a real eye-opener. My mum, she's a nurse. My grandma was also a nurse. So
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I knew
your
what I was getting
favourite
myself
nun?
into. My favourite one, yeah.
Oh.
So I knew what I was getting myself into. They all said, no, don't do it. Don't work for the NHS. But I didn't listen to them. And I've been in the NHS since 2004. So a few years. And I was just working around, giving patient care, building my way up to where I am now.
Oh. Because on your birthday, I saw a few pictures of you as a junior nurse. And I was like, yeah, there is a journey. It's not like you wake up and you've made your way there.
No, I was lucky though. So when I qualified, I applied for my first job and I actually got it in the area I wanted to work in, and that was in theatre recovery. So I stayed there as a 5, did my training, was a 6, and now I'm currently a band 7 there. So I progressed in my 22 years all through the same department. So it's nice, and I've got people that have been with me since the start. It's a little family, but in a little family, the problem is you have arguments. So
yeah. Like every other one.
Every family, yeah. We're a dysfunctional family, but you need those people with you on 12-hour shift, definitely.
Yeah.
Makes a big difference.
So could you take us back on the times where you were HCA? What is your memory of those times?
Oh, my memory. Well, hopefully things have moved on a little bit now, but the HCAs, especially ones, as soon as they knew you were a student, you had to do everything. Even though you weren't supposed to be doing it, you have to do everything. You were the ones providing the care for the patients. If the patient was unwell, you were the one trying to get the nurse to try and look after them, try and come review them. I remember one patient, he had a bit of chest pain, and I thought, oh no, that's not good. So I went to go get the nurse, and she goes, just do his obs, I'll be there in a minute. And she still hadn't come. And then he really was quite poorly and stopped breathing. So full on cardiac arrest. She eventually decided that she was going to have a little walk on over from her desk where she was writing her notes. But it was fine. We got it. We got the team there. And everything got done.
Did you have emergency buzzers
we did,
at the time?
Yeah, I didn't work in the 1800s. We did still have emergency buzzers 22 years ago.
Your ancestral human being.
Yeah, and I had done my BLS, so I was trained at the time, so that was good.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh.
You think we're short staffed now, but back then we were a lot less staffed than what we are now. So
really?
Definitely.
What was the ratio?
Probably about 1 to 12. I would say. So the HCAs, the nurses would do all the notes because it was all on paper, no computers. Everything was care planning. So you would have to do the actual work, do the actual obs, do the toileting. We didn't even have kitchen attendants the whole time. We have to go and give them their meals, feed them their meals. Oh. Yeah, very busy.
That's very busy, actually. Oh. So when did you realize, like, oh, I can do this. I could lead a whole team. Because the team that you're leading, how many staffing is
the little team where we are now, we've got 25 staff.
Little.
Yeah. But if I'm coordinating, that goes
little.
on to about 80, 90 staff. Depends what day it is.
Oh, in a day?
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's wild. So This podcast title is From Eating Pizza to Inserting Catheters. Nursing is, I believe, a very wild transformation that I did not know about. I just thought, oh, I've got two hands, I want to save lives, I want to take care of people. And actually, it comes up with a lot more luggage than just that. Um, how was your wild transformation, and how did you become a clinical superhero?
Oh, it's a tough question. I mean, I've been there a long time, so it's a natural progression. And I think my talent, if you ask anyone that I work with, it will be looking at patients and then realizing which one's going to be the one that's going to suddenly deteriorate, which one's going to be the one that suddenly gets sick. They say that's what my superpower is.
That
I
is.
can pick which patient's going to deteriorate. So I think that's why where I work now in recovery is a good place for me to work, because they're all acute surgical patients. They've all just had anaesthetic. They could arrest at any time. And I really enjoy, the fast pace of work in there. Definitely. And we've had many difficult times over the years. There's a particular case that stood out for me when I was actually a band 6 on a night shift, 3 a.m., because that's when everything happens on a night shift.
That's true, isn't it? It's a bit weird.
And we had this young patient, young like me, in her 40s, and she'd had routine surgery, but something just wasn't quite right. So I kept calling the doctors, come and have a look. And because there wasn't anything particularly wrong with her, her blood pressure was low, but not too low. Her heart rate was a little bit high, but not too high. There wasn't really anything they could put their finger on.
How much was the news on?
Well,
Zero.
back then we didn't do news, but it probably would have only been a 2
Okay.
or 3.
Yeah.
It wasn't very high, so they weren't concerned. But there was something that wasn't quite right about this lady, and I saw the consultant. He'd come in to see a different case, so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give him a call since he's already in the hospital. And he came with me, took one look at the patient, and said, "Okay, let's take her to scan." So we took her to CT scan, and she was bleeding, massive blood loss internally. She went straight back to theatre, had emergency laparotomy, but she survived, and she was fine. And she actually wrote a little story about me in one of the journals that she writes. She works for one of the medical journals. So
Does she?
nice. Yeah.
That's wild.
And it also happened that my husband was on shift that night as the ODP in theatres. So I took her into theatre, he looked after her in theatre, and then we both woke her up. And she remembers the full story, so that's really nice.
So that's really nice, actually. And I did not know about that story. So Gemma, she talks about her husband just now. How did you meet your husband? People need to know this.
We need to know. So I was newly qualified. I just started working started in October 2007. As did he. He started the same day, and he was a porter. We used to have theatre porters back then, before everyone became theatre support workers. And he sort of walked over to me and started talking to me just to try and get to know me. And I remember the first joke he told me, which was terrible. So my maiden name used to be Thompson, and I've got a brother called Thomas. So he was like, "Oh, okay, you have siblings. What are their names?" I asked him the names. I told him that one of my brothers was Thomas Thompson. He was like, "Oh, Tom. But he doesn't get lost." Haha. And I was like, "What?" And with that, he walked off, and I didn't see him for the rest of the day. And I now know that it's because he was dying of embarrassment. But he kept coming back. And then eventually we got married and had 2 children. The end.
The end.
But no, he did the same as me. He worked his way up in his career, and he's also a band 7 in the operating department practitioner. So yeah, we're doing well.
You just need to believe it, isn't it?
Well,
from a porter to band 7.
Well, you've met him, you know what he's like. So.
I know. He's also like us.
They got on really well.
So yeah. I feel very good when I meet people crazy, because I feel home. I feel like I've met my people.
You feel a bit less crazy.
Less crazy, more normal. What is a day in your shoes like? Band 7. So for people that are watching us, I don't know, from Portugal maybe, or I don't know where you're watching us from. But when you are a newly qualified, you start as newly qualified nurse. You start as band 5, and then you'll become a charge nurse some of the days, and you can work hard, as Gemma did, for band 6, and then you'll be a nurse in charge most of the times. There's sometimes they still take you to do bedside nursing, but mostly your job is as a band 6 on the wards is to take charge of the patients. And then band 7 is mainly team orientation. isn't it?
Yeah, you're mainly the team leader,
So
slightly less clinical.
yeah, she still checks everything, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, I still like to come around and check everyone's behaving. Savannah
Um,
never does.
so how is a day in your shoes, and what is the good and the bad of that?
Well, a typical day in my shoes, I'll come up when the night doctors and the day doctors are giving a handover. I work in an area where we have 6 patients, up to 6 patients. So I'll come and listen to the handover and review those 6 patients and see how they're getting on, what wards they need to be transferred to so that we can admit the new ones. So I'll go and take that information to one of the multiple bed meetings that we have and discuss the cases with the intensive care doctors if I need to move any patients that are a bit unstable to them, just to create capacity so we can do the new cases and bring them in. So it's mainly bed meetings the first half of the morning. And then I come up and I talk to my team, see how they're getting on, see what problems they have, see if the patients need any extra support that they're struggling with, go and check they're all doing okay, speak to the relatives, see if they would like to leave any comments, leave any feedback, see if they have any complaints. We now have that little QR code where we work with the patients and relatives and give feedback to see how well we've done or what we could do better. And yeah, have a bit of a joke with you. Come and do a bit of tidying up. If someone needs lunch break and there's not enough staff to cover, then I'll take over for them so they can go for their lunches, get me a bit of time with the patients, and yeah, go from there really. Just troubleshoot and support.
What is the moment that you're like, this requires some red wine?
I think most days, but it's rosé. Rosé, actually. No,
Rose in a bathtub.
it's really busy, and the whole reason everyone's struggling, everyone's working really hard, is for patient care. So it's really frustrating when you've got a patient that you are trying to move to the ward because they're doing really well. They can be moved to the ward because you want to get the sick patient that's not doing so well in, and you just can't do it because there's just not enough spaces in the hospital. Multiple hospitals have this problem. There's just not enough beds anywhere. So it's really frustrating that you've done all you can, and yet there's still things that are out of your control that can't happen. Or if you have a particularly challenging doctor that's not maybe supporting you the best that he can do, normally everyone calls me to come and tell them off and say, come on, this is what we need, why are you not doing it? Yeah, just mainly chasing people, that gets really frustrating. Or if we've had a really unwell patient and we've just been really, really busy, we haven't had time to stop and think, and once everything's sorted and the patient's okay, you're just like, oh, I can relax now and have a glass of wine.
I know.
Or go to bed.
Yeah. I remember one time Gemma, she came and we had an unwell patient, but he was not too unwell. And she was like, this man needs to go to theatre right now. And the doctors were still debating what was causing blah, blah, blah. And she was like, this patient is bleeding internally, and I'm going to book the theatre while you discuss this. I got to see the surgery because I was on my break, right? I went to see a little bit of the surgery, and the patient, literally, it was like balls of blood, like
it was really
coming
unwell.
off. And I was just like, can you read my hand, please? Tell me if I'm getting married. How many kids? What's my future like? I was like,
that's
know?
the thing. So even though I'm not a doctor, I'm a nurse. However, I've been in the job for over 20 years and I have that experience. And some of the doctors we work with, they've only been in our department a year or 6 months. So it's a bit of, I think we can say, intuition now from experience. Being there so long, you get that sort of intuition. You know when something's not quite right, and you just have a bit more experience with these situations. I think that makes a big difference. And now I'm old and a bit more grumpy. I don't really care about saying to someone, oi, we need to do this. I don't really mind about upsetting people so much.
I don't think you're grumpy.
I'm still polite.
Very polite. She would tell you off
more assertive.
in a nice way that you won't even take it like, oh, actually, just telling me off. Never happened to me, thank God, never will.
Happens to her every day. I need to be more clear.
But not that I'm offended, at least. So that's how I think it's an inspiration, really, because surprisingly, she comes with a nice face, a little smile, and she tells you, can you please do your job right? Fuck off. Oh, I didn't say this. I did not. I'm going to cut.
You're the first one to swear. You owe me a drink now.
best part is cut this bit. Right. What is the shift you will never forget?
Oh, the shift I'll never forget. Oh, there's been so many. There's been so many. We've already touched on one about this lady going back to theatre, because that was quite a memorable one because no one would believe me, but we got there in the end. I think another shift we had was when we had this, there's good side to surgery. The thing I love about surgery is that it's curative 90% of the time. The whole reason you come to theatre is to have something broken fixed or have something cancerous removed. We fix you, you can recover, and you can, go on with your life. But sometimes you have patients that are quite unwell, are really unstable, and actually there's nothing more you can do for them. So I remember this lovely lady coming in. This is when I was a band 6, and she'd fractured her hip. Can't leave her with a fractured hip, so we have to bring her to theatre. And she was very old. She was 89, really unwell, lots of other comorbidities. So we knew it was a risk, but it had to be done. We'd had a long chat and decided what her wishes were with the doctors there. So she knew the plan, the family all involved, and she came to theatre. When she came out into recovery, she was absolutely fine, chatting, talking along, bit of low blood pressure, so we're giving her some fluids, but otherwise she was fine, until she suddenly wasn't fine. She just stopped talking. Her daughter was with me at the time because I'd just gone off to get her a glass of water, and she was shouting, "Mum, Mum, Mum." She said, "Oh, she's not responding." So I went and pushed the emergency buzzer and got all of the emergency equipment, and we started resuscitating her.
Oh, she
And
was
it
off.
was, yeah, she was proper gone. She had 1 minute she was fine, the next minute absolutely not responsive at all. So as we were resuscitating her, the team carried on, went and had a chat with the daughter, and decided that if we couldn't regain any form of life, then we would call it a day and stop treatment. So we spent about 20 minutes with her. Nothing was improving, so we called it a day. Moved her to the anaesthetic room where it was nice and quiet, and just sat with her until her time had come. And it was really sad because she was talking and cracking jokes with me 10 minutes prior to this. And when obviously, because it was a sudden death in a way, all of the tests came back that she'd had a major blood clot and had a major stroke and suffered a heart attack, and that's why she died. So nothing you could have done. It was just
Did you
just one
not
of those
see on
things.
the OBS?
Nothing. So this is the importance of pre-opping. So back in those days, patients didn't have the pre-op clinics like what they used to have. They didn't have all of the workup that they used to have and talk about stopping their meds or starting their meds. So she hadn't, and because it was like an injury, an accident, it wasn't an elective surgery, she hadn't had the full workup. So parts of her history weren't kept in the handover sheet, so bits were missed. So she had quite a lot of fluid when really she should have been fluid restricted, because she already had a type of cardiac failure. She'd already had some valve replacements. There was things
No
that were
info.
missed, but end of the day she still would have needed an anaesthetic to have her hip fixed, so you're not going to change that. And it was the anaesthetic, it's just a bit too much for her, and there's always a risk having any bony surgery of getting a clot. You can get a fat embolism,
Yeah.
which is really high risk, and especially someone on that age. So yeah, it was sad, but we did what we did. But I was sitting with her for about 20 minutes because the daughter had left, and I was just sitting there quiet, just reflecting before we
Next to
finished
her.
off. Yeah, before we finished off the last offices and sent her on her way.
Last offices means the last care you give to the patient. We never call it like a body.
No.
But yeah, it's the last care, like washing them and everything. So you sat down next to her. Did you talk to her?
Yeah, so I do. So if I've been involved in the patient care, I always like to do the last offices because I feel it's finishing off the care that you're giving the patient. You have a little talk to them, you say your final goodbye, and then you call the team and get them taken down to the mortuary. I think it's a nice, well, it's not nice, but it's a nice
the
way to
least you
end off
could
the
do.
care. Exactly, and you finish your job. You've done your job properly, and you can relax. Yeah.
So I want to ask you this: how was your first death, and how did you build up that resilience and strength that you need?
Yeah, I think you definitely have to detach yourself a bit from reality, this sort of job, because you see, unfortunately, death all the time where we work, especially in theatres. The first one I saw was as an HCA. I remember doing the breakfast round, and unfortunately, the patient had passed away and it hadn't been handed over to me. So the side room was shut, and the sign was there saying, you know, do not enter. But for some reason, I didn't really notice it. So I knocked on the door and I was like, hello, good morning. What do you like for breakfast? And then I was like, oh dear. Because it was very obvious that the person was no longer living. So I ran out and told the nurse in charge, and she goes, yes, we know. We're just waiting for the family to come in. And I was like, oh, right. So there's a sign on the door. Do you not see it? I was like, no. And because I think it was all very chilled and relaxed, I don't think it really fazed me. I was just a bit shocked because I wasn't expecting it. But at the same time, they just looked like they were sleeping, just completely still. So it wasn't really something that particularly scared me. I think.
Is there any time that did scare you?
Not really. No, I'm a little bit weird.
Okay. No, it's just some people react differently.
Yeah, I think the only ones that really scare me, or really upset me, that I don't have to see very often, are if they're children, because obviously that's less expected. But when they're in their older years, you feel like they've had a good life, they've reached the end of their life, and now they're resting. That's how I look at it anyway. You know, they're having a long rest.
Yeah. You know, one day, this is funny but not funny. Funny but not funny. You need to get a bit of dark humor.
You definitely have to have dark humor being a nurse.
Definitely. Yeah. So
100%.
I was activities coordinator in a care home. I was very excited because it was COVID, so families could not come in. So I used to bring an iPad and show them and promote communication with the relatives. So one day this patient relative was calling, and I was coming in the room. So I knocked the room, and then it was a FaceTime call, you know. I was like, hi, da da da, yabba yabba yabba. Then I entered the room, and the patient was dead.
And you didn't know.
And I was like, oh, I was like, what to do? I was like, what do you do? And I was like, sorry, I'm just having some technical problems.
Yeah, that's what I'd say. I'd say, can I call you back? Yeah.
And he was like, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah. I'll just let the nurse talk to you. They will probably call you. I couldn't say it's all good because it wasn't. I didn't want to scare him either. So I was just trying to get rid of that call.
Oh dear.
And that was really weird actually that day. Some days you would just never forget, isn't it?
During COVID, theatres couldn't run, emergencies only, so we all got redeployed to intensive care. And in intensive care, you couldn't have visiting anyway because it was COVID. They were all really sick, COVID positive patients, so we'd have the iPads. And before I'd let the relatives see, their loved one, I would definitely explain to them, they're asleep, they have a breathing tube, they have these wires, they have this, because what you don't want to do, if they're not knowing what to expect, you basically need to set the expectations. Then the shock is slightly less. And there was one, they wanted to talk to them, and so they won't be able to speak, they're unconscious, they have the breathing tube in, but they said, oh, can you just put it there so they can hear my voice? I was like, all right then. And they were talking to them, and about 3 hours later they passed away. But again, even when people were passing away, you weren't allowed to come and sit with them in ITU, not during COVID times. You were banned. So the nurses, and I was only there for 3 months because then I had to reopen my department. But in those 3 months, I'd go on shift, I'd look after a patient in bed 2, and then a few days later I'd look after a patient in bed 2, and it'd be a different patient. It was really hard times, and the relatives couldn't come, so you would have to stay there with the patients.
And it's difficult to get detached as well when you are such. Oh, I didn't know. When you're such in environment. And I also didn't know you were moved to critical care.
There's a few key staff stayed behind. So we had skeleton staff in theatres because it was emergencies only. All elective surgery got cancelled. All cancer surgery got cancelled. Everything got cancelled during COVID, unless you'd had like a car accident and you needed to go have your leg fixed. That's the only thing we kept going. So for 3 months I was redeployed.
That's wild.
It was crazy times.
Yeah.
But again, we survived it. I also broke the ventilators. That was fun.
What?
It ran out of battery. All these ventilators, we didn't have enough. Like all the trusts, there wasn't quite enough ventilators. It ran out of battery, and I was messaging on the iPads because we couldn't obviously communicate very well with the big masks on. And I was messaging saying I need help, but it's not working. And the nurse in charge would be the green clean runner, and she'd have the iPad. She's like, "How is it broken?" I was like, "Well, it's not turning on." Like, "Oh, well, have you tried turn it on and off again before? I was like, yes, I have. Please help. So she came in and sourced a different one. Yeah.
Wow. So what did you do in the meantime? Just
I
the
manually bagged, which is actually what I was more comfortable with, ironically, because I'm not used to using ventilators. In recovery, the whole thing you do is,
manually.
wake them up, take their tube out. Whereas in ICU, no, keep them asleep. Don't take the tube out. So you have to,
because
try and reverse my psychology.
No, but in the unity work, actually, if something escalates to deterioration of the patient that you need to ventilate them, that's the first step, is manually bag them.
So I was actually more comfortable.
We don't have it. We don't have ventilators in recovery. So I'm imagining COVID was quite an experience. And how did you do to overcome the overwhelming, how do you say overwhelming? The overwhelming moments that you had?
I think just have to keep yourself busy. We were so busy, and I had one child at the time. I had my son, but because my husband's also a key worker, we both went to work, so he went to nursery. So I think we tried to keep things as normal as we could for him, because he didn't really know what was going on. Luckily, he hadn't quite started school yet, but for him, apart from not being allowed to go and see his friends or to go to like the soft play and things like that, it was quite normal for him. So we managed to just try and keep him busy, and that's how we got through it. We had, like, on our days off, we made sure we would do things. He actually learned to ride his bike during COVID, so we made use of that time. I know. And it was difficult. Tried not to watch the news too much and scare myself of what was happening everywhere, because I could see what was happening where I physically was in my own world. So I thought, that's enough for me. I don't need to see what else is happening elsewhere.
Yeah, because it's too much. They were on and on and on the whole day, and we had nothing to do, so we had to see it. But I think it was considerable, can't talk,
considerably
less
we didn't have it quite as bad
scary as for the ones that were passively living it. It
used to make me really angry when some of our neighbours were like, is it really that bad though? They're just trying to stop us from going out, aren't they? It's not really that bad, is it? And I'm like, well, if you want to come on shift with me, you'll see how bad it is. And I think the biggest fear I had was bringing it home to my family. So I didn't go and see anyone. I just literally saw my husband and my son. That was it. But I didn't want to bring it home for him and to have him feel really sick. So we used to have a box by the front door where you'd take your outer clothes. Obviously, I wore scrubs anyway, but you'd take your outer clothes off in that box. You'd run upstairs and shower. And then only then would I want to spend time with the family, just in case.
Oh my God.
And we did all catch it at some point during that time. But
you did?
Yeah, but we all were okay, luckily.
My God, I think I got it.
No worse than man flu.
Honestly, taking care of men, everyone that is, I'm not being discriminative, but taking care of some men, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't breathe. Help me. Oh, I can't move my finger. My toe isn't moving. Yes.
There'll be people watching this saying it's been scientifically proven that men suffer more from flu and COVID than what women do.
Really?
There are some studies.
Okay.
But I'm not going to go into them.
They're all excused then.
No, they're not. They're not.
So obviously, back to the first bit. You're band 7. How do you think, like, because yourself is you're just a person, how do you like build the skills to teach and mentor and support junior staff? Because you do recruit and you need to educate them.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of mentoring, not so much now as a 7, but as a 6 in a band 5. I used to do a lot of mentoring. In fact, some of the staff that I mentored as band 5s are still with us now. And I think it's has to be like embedded in you, like part of your personality to want to become a nurse or to become someone in the healthcare setting. I think you have to be willing to share knowledge and to teach people. I think that's really important, because if you don't support each other, you're not going to get through the shift. So you need to make sure you have, your team around you that's skilled, that can help you when you need them the most. I think it's really important, to make sure you have a good team. And someone that came over from New Zealand recently, he came to see what my department was doing,
Mm-hmm.
have a chat with me. And he was asking me, if you had any money in the world, what would actually be like your best resource? What would you recommend? If I'm starting a recovery from scratch, what would you recommend? And I said, it's the team. It's the skilled team. Because if you don't have that skilled team and the basic foundations, it doesn't matter what equipment you have. If they can't use it, or they can't detect when a patient needs it, it's pointless.
That's so true, actually.
Yeah.
And I think, like, in this trust, and especially in England, really, you train yourself so well. And I was just thinking, if I wouldn't have this training, I would never have this critical thinking at the bedside, and have this superhero power that you have of seeing deteriorating patients without them firstly deteriorating. So I think that's all the skills, that's all the training, that's all the education and time that you take. How do you recruit stuff? What's your you must have it?
What my must have, like when I'm interviewing?
Yeah,
This, well, I want them to have certain skills, certain exposure to surgery. Ideally, have done some life support courses, so they're used to looking after acute people, so they have a basic knowledge. But also need someone that, yes, we have really good training here. However, you need to want to go out and take those learning opportunities. I want someone that's got a bit of initiative, that's not going to sit there and want to be spoon fed all of these experiences. I want them to take some ownership for their own learning a little bit. And if they have that motivation and that initiative, then that's already the basic foundation for what I'm looking for. And someone that's willing to learn. Yeah, because if I'm teaching you but you're not listening to me, then it's pointless. It's a two-way contract. You can't just receive everything and then not take any action from it. Gosh, you're wasting my time.
Yeah, and it's always.
And I haven't got time for time wasters. Definitely not. Write this down, Sylvana.
Notes taken. Okay, that's a good point. Because sometimes you see some nurses, obviously, they're just still human at the end of the day, and you just see them like. I don't think some people they like their jobs as a nurse, and I think because it's culturally everywhere in the world seen as a good job, they just take it because their families have orientated them to do that. But in the end, it's just like, what are you doing? You're not caring. You're not proactive. You just literally looking at the clock, looking at the time passing. It's just crazy, crazy to
maybe
me.
They need to look for another job.
But they don't. That is the
No,
problem.
I know.
And it doesn't happen too many times, really. Right. Changing to most funny questions. What do you have to say to chaos, poop, and please don't crash today?
Chaos. Chaos is pretty much once a week for me when it's a really busy shift. No beds. We can't find the dressing we want. We can't find the piece of equipment we want. We haven't got enough space. It's just organised chaos most of the time. And just being busy. I mean, to spice it up a bit, sometimes you get a confused patient. Just when you want to try and go for a break or something, they decide to jump out of bed. That's always really helpful. Calling security is sometimes fun if you get the handsome ones. So.
Oh, yeah.
There's not many, though.
There's not many. Don't get too excited.
No, don't get excited. What was the next one? Poop?
Poop.
Yeah, it's just a...
shit everywhere.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. I don't mind a bit of poop. I don't mind. In fact, my
but phlegm is
phlegm's not for me. No. So if we have to list what's my least favourite bodily fluid, it would be phlegm. Yeah. Don't mind blood, don't mind poo, don't mind vomit, that's all fine. Bit of wee. No nurse really cares about wee. It's just everyone's been weed on once or twice in their career.
I've been weed last 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, exactly. So no one cares. It's sterile. It doesn't matter. As long as there's no lumps in it, no floaters, it's fine. But just wash your hands a lot.
Complete the phrase. Nurse is like.
Oh, it's a difficult one. I could put so many things in that blank.
You could say them all at the same time.
Oh, I could say a nice thing. I could say like a jokey thing. Like nurses like being a mother.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, we could say it like that. So you have to look after your patients. You have to look after your surgeons, who sometimes act like 2-year-olds. You have to, look after your doctors and your staff. You have to mother everybody, especially when you're in charge on the shift. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way of
Yeah.
saying. Oh, I believe
I could say
agree.
lots of other things, but I think that's probably the most polite and the best one at this time I can think of.
Could you tell me? Yes, I run this place. However, I cannot still find a. Or is something like, oh, I can never find this thing.
Something I can never find when I'm looking for it. Probably an attachment to something. I've ordered so many attachments to a piece of breathing equipment for the CPAP machine. I've ordered so many, and it's in a box. And then we very rarely get patients that need to use it. It's a little device that you can add some oxygen into their home CPAP, because normally they just use their home CPAP or just the oxygen. And I know I've ordered a box. I know it's in the storeroom, but when I really need it, I cannot find it. And it drives me mad. So I've kept a couple in my personal drawer in the office now. So that when I need it, I know exactly where it is.
Right. I think I can't think about anything else. You want to add anything?
I don't know. What do you want me to add? It's not much longer for you now until you qualify. So you'll be joining the crazy world of responsibilities. You're responsible for your actions.
I think that the first shifts as a newly qualified will take my sleep away. It will, definitely. Because all I want is critical and well patients.
Be careful what you wish for. Let's just record that now. Be careful what you wish for. She wants critically unwell patients on her first shift.
No, not on the first shift.
Oh, okay.
But it will happen
She wasn't very
because
clear
I
with
want ED,
Yeah.
which is emergency department, or CCA, which is critical care area.
Okay.
So I don't want nobody really unwell that I'm going to lose my patient on the first shift. But I know it's going to be critical unwell because they're coming to these facilities. Is not like outpatients kind of ward I want.
No.
Calm. I'm not calm person.
You're either like the critical or you like the calm and steady. You can't be both. Yeah, I definitely don't like calm.
No.
Which is fortunate because it's not really calm where I am.
Yeah, not really. Well, it really, really makes me really sleepy if I start a morning very slow. I like action. Please give me some, at least drama. Give me some.
Oh, there's always drama on shift with me. Always.
Really? What was the last tea they can share? Anything?
The last drama.
Like relatives being...
Relatives weren't too bad. Just trying to think. There's always drama, so it's difficult to think. You've been on shift recently. Have we had a dramatic shift? No? Maybe that'll be a thought for next time.
My position in the job, I think it's so different from yours.
Yeah.
So I don't focus really on patients because that's not my job. My job is mainly restock and support the staff if they need something. Is not looking after a patient if he's happy or if he's sad, if he needs water, if he's peeing or pooping, or if he's snoozing high. That's not my priority. My priority is making sure everyone has got enough staff to work with.
But that's what I mean. If we didn't have, say you hadn't stocked up one of the trolleys for putting in an arterial line, my patient suddenly deteriorates, I need to go and get stuff to put in the arterial line. That extra 20 minutes it would take me to find stuff if you hadn't stocked it up. See, everyone has a role to play.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So when people say, oh, I'm just this or I'm just that, it really annoys me because you need all of that to work together.
That's so true.
To run the department, definitely.
We had a patient, he was deteriorating. And suddenly the nurse shouted at me, NPA. And I was like, what the hell is that NPA? And then I was just, because you don't have much time to think if they're like, not shouting, like madly shouting, being rude or anything, but like, get me an NPA now!
And they're stressed because it's an emergency situation. What did you think it was out of interest when you first
I
thought
just
of it?
like there's so
just went
many
blank.
acronyms,
Yeah.
and English is not my first language, so it's just like so difficult sometimes. And I was trying to know because I was like, I know what an NPA means, but just not at this current
Yeah.
time. So I was just like, is nasopharyngeal airway? Okay, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's just like,
Did you know where it was?
I did,
Okay.
but it was just at the time, like my brain gets a bit
Yeah.
blank because it needs to happen
Yeah.
right now, like in the next 0.5 second. Like, you know,
But
it's
that
not
always
even
happens
one.
in emergencies, though. It is going to be stressful. You suddenly go into panic mode, and that's why you just need to remember. Just remember ABC. Just remember ABC, and you can't go
That's
wrong.
so true. And if you're outside, Dr. ABC.
Dr. ABC.
DR. DR A B C D. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah. I don't have anything else. Thank you so much for
Thank you very
coming.
much. Thank you for inviting me.
Now we're going to party. Hope
I'm going to have some wine and a barbecue.
you subscribe. Please subscribe, thumbs up, and thank you for watching. Bye.
Bye.